The Byzantine Empire had been at war with the Sasanian Empire since 527 AD. The conflict ignited when the Sasanian King of Kings, Kavad I, attempted to force the Christian Iberians to convert to Zoroastrianism. The Iberian king fled to the Byzantines for protection, but Kavad, looking to secure the succession of his favoured son Khosrau, attempted to make peace. Kavad asked the Byzantine Emperor Justin I to formally adopt Khosrau, but Justin agreed only on the condition that the adoption be done in a rite reserved for barbarians. This deeply offended the Persian king, and diplomatic talks spectacularly collapsed. A series of bitter proxy wars and border clashes ensued. In 528 AD, the Byzantines suffered a crushing defeat at the Battle of Thanuris. The Sasanian army had utilized a clever system of defensive trenches to completely rout the Romans, leading to a massive slaughter of Byzantine infantry. 2 years later, in 530 AD, Kavad ordered his general Perozes, who held the prestigious title of Miranes, to lead a massive invasion force of 40,000 men against the vital Byzantine border city of Dara. The Persian army set up their camp at Amodios, roughly 5 kilometers south of Dara. Commander of the Byzantine forces at Dara, Belisarius, positioned his army 2 to 3 kilometers south of the city. Having learned a hard lesson from the Byzantine defeat at Thanuris, he ordered his men to dig a deep trench to disrupt the fearsome Sasanian cavalry. His centre line was pulled far back into a deep pocket, flanked by forward-jutting cross trenches supported by archers on the walls. At key points, his men left narrow dirt paths intact, deliberate openings meant to lure the massive Sasanian cavalry into compressed, bloody choke points. Behind the centre trench, Belisarius placed his unreliable infantry. On the left and right flanks were the Byzantine cavalry. Supporting the left interior flank were 300 Hun cavalry under the command of Sunikas and Agan, while the right was supported by an equal number of Huns under Simus and Ascan. In the rear centre, Belisarius held his elite Busalari reserve cavalry. The army was around 25,000 men. On the first day, no action was taken by neither side until late afternoon. The Sasanians wanted to test the Romans. A small detachment surged forward and clashed with Roman left flank. After a brief skirmish, the Romans pushed them back. A young Sasanian warrior rode into the open, challenging the Romans to single combat. Andreas, a civilian wrestling instructor attached to the Byzantine army, stepped forward without orders. He charged and killed the warrior with a spear, triggering a roar from the Roman lines and the city walls. The Sasanians responded by sending a second, a seasoned veteran who mocked the Romans from his horse. Andreas again disobeyed orders and engaged him. Their horses collided, throwing both to the ground. Using his wrestling skill, Andreas overpowered him and killed him. Humiliated, the Sasanian forces lost momentum and withdrew to their camp as night fell, ending the first day. After the first day of skirmishes, Belisarius sent a letter to Perozes. "The first blessing is peace, as is agreed by all men who have even a small share of reason. The best general, therefore, is that one which is able to bring about peace from war." The letter either went unanswered or Perozes had already decided on battle despite failed negotiations, and the fighting resumed. By the second day, 10,000 more Persian troops arrived from Nisibis, swelling the Sasanian ranks to 50,000 men. Perozes sent back a mocking response, telling Belisarius to return to the city and prepare a bath for him, so he could relax in luxury after his inevitable victory. The battle started with the Sassanid and Byzantine light infantry exchanged fire, causing light casualties on both sides. As Procopius describes, at first then, both sides discharged arrows against each other, and the missiles by their great number made, as it were, a vast cloud. And many men were falling on both sides, but the missiles of the barbarians flew much more thickly. For fresh men were always fighting in turn, affording to their enemy not the slightest opportunity to observe what was being done. But even so, the Romans did not have the worst of it. For a steady wind blew from their side against the barbarians, and checked to a considerable degree the force of their arrows. Realizing that archery alone would not decide the battle, the Persians launched a full-scale cavalry assault. The first Sasanian wave crashed into the Byzantine left flank. Fierce fighting erupted as the Roman cavalry struggled to hold the line behind the trench. But under the relentless pressure, they were slowly driven back. Just as the Byzantine left seemed on the verge of collapse, Belisarius sprung his trap. From their position behind the left flank, the 300 Hun cavalry under Senecas and Aigan surged forward in a devastating counterattack. At the same moment, Herulian cavalry burst from behind, slamming into the Persian rear. Caught from two directions, the Sasanian right wing collapsed into chaos. The survivors fled in disorder, leaving nearly 3,000 dead on the battlefield. Seeing his right wing disintegrate, Perozes committed his greatest reserve. On the Persian left, the elite armoured lancers known as the Jayadan, the legendary Immortals, rode into battle under the command of Barismanes. The Immortals smashed into the Byzantine right wing with tremendous force. The Roman cavalry was driven back, and for a moment, defeat seemed dangerously close. At that critical moment, Belisarius committed his final reserve, the elite Busalari. Charging straight into the widening gap, they split the Persian attack clean in two. Half of the Sasanian cavalry continued their pursuit, unaware they had become isolated, while the remainder found themselves completely surrounded. Amid the furious melee, the Hunnic commander Sunicus spotted Barismanes. He charged directly at the Persian leader, struck down his standard-bearer, then drove his spear into Barismanes, hurling him from his horse and killing him. The death of their commander shattered the morale of the Immortals. As their standard fell into the dust, panic swept through the Sasanian ranks. The once feared elite broke and fled in complete disorder. Seizing the opportunity, the Roman cavalry regrouped, encircled the retreating Persians, and slaughtered nearly 5,000 men. As the Sasanian army broke and fled, the Byzantine soldiers were eager to pursue them. But Belisarius ordered his men to hold their ground. He understood that a reckless chase could lead straight into a deadly ambush, and he was content to let most of the surviving Persians escape. For the first time in a very long while, a Byzantine army had decisively defeated the Sasanians in pitched battle. Though the Iberian War would continue, eventually bringing setbacks such as Callinicum and ending only with a heavily negotiated peace, the Battle of Dara proved the brilliant leadership of Flavius Belisarius, who will be celebrated as the last Roman general,